You've heard the name Watergate, right? It's become the ultimate shorthand for political scandal. A president using the power of the state to spy on his opponents. It's this textbook story about the abuse of power at the highest level. But what if I told you that echoes of that very scandal are popping up today, halfway across the world? So let's do a super quick refresh on Watergate. Back in June '72, there's a break-in at the opposition party's headquarters. The goal? Simple. Steal documents, plant bugs. What follows over the next couple of years is a massive cover-up, pulling in the FBI and the CIA, with the trail leading right to the White House. And by August 1974, with impeachment all but guaranteed, President Nixon resigns. It was a huge wake-up call for democracies everywhere. And that, right there, brings us to today, because a recent, really high-drama raid in India has a lot of people asking that exact same question. Are we seeing a modern version of Watergate play out, where state agencies are being used not to fight crime, but to get a leg up on political rivals? To really get what's going on, we have to travel to the city of Kolkata, where what should have been a routine raid just completely blew up into this unprecedented political showdown. Okay, so the story kicks off on the morning of January 8th. Teams from the Enforcement Directorate, that's the ED, a top federal agency for financial crimes, show up at the offices of a political consulting firm called IPAC. Now, the official reason they gave for the raid was a 5-year-old case involving a coal scam. But the timing? Well, let's just say the timing was anything but old news. This whole thing went down just months before a massive, high-stakes state election in West Bengal, an election where IPAC is running the campaign for the party in power there. And this is where things just go from 0 to 100. The state's chief minister, a woman named Mamata Banerjee, doesn't just put out a press release, no. She physically shows up at the raid herself. I mean, this is something you pretty much never see happen in Indian politics. And she was not holding back. She called the federal agency a killer of democracy, basically yelling that the raid had nothing to do with a coal scam. She claimed the real target was her party's most sensitive data. We're talking their entire election strategy, their candidate lists, the whole shebang. What happened next was just pure political theater. In front of all the news cameras, she walks out of the building holding a hard drive, a laptop, and a folder, and just openly declares that this stuff belongs to her party and she's taking it back. It was this incredible, defiant act of confrontation. So, to really wrap our heads around this, we need to know who the two main players at the heart of this storm are: the ED and IPAC. First, you've got the Enforcement Directorate. This is India's top agency for investigating big financial crimes like money laundering. And here's the key part. It reports directly to the Finance Ministry, which is part of the central government run by Prime Minister Modi's BJP. And on the other side, there's IPAC. Now, these guys aren't a political party. They're a professional consulting firm, kind of like political guns for hire, known for their super data-driven, high-tech campaigns. They've worked with all sorts of parties, but right now, their main client is Mamata Banerjee's party, the TMC, which happens to be a major rival of the BJP. Now, the opposition's claim is that this raid wasn't just a one-off thing. They say it's part of a much bigger and, frankly, more disturbing pattern. And when you actually look at the data, you start to see where they're coming from. So this is really the heart of it all, right? Was the ED just doing its job investigating a 5-year-old crime? Or was this a calculated political move right before an election? Well, the data from the last 10 years or so, it points to a very clear trend. And the numbers, they're pretty jaw-dropping. If you look at all the raids the ED has carried out against politicians over the last decade, a whopping 98% of them have targeted opposition leaders. Just 2% have been against politicians from the ruling party or its allies. That kind of imbalance is the fuel for these accusations, and it raises some really serious questions about whether everyone's playing on a level field. But wait, it gets even crazier. With all those raids, you'd expect a lot of convictions, right? Well, the conviction rate in these high-profile cases against politicians is around 1%. So that begs the question, if the goal is actually convicting people for corruption, why is the success rate so unbelievably low? Critics say the goal isn't really conviction. It's just intimidation. And all this data has led to what people are calling the washing machine phenomenon. Take a look at these 3 leaders, Subendu Adhikari, Ajit Pawar, and Himanta Biswa Sarma. All 3 of them were being actively investigated by the ED when they were in opposition parties. But then, after they switched sides and joined the ruling BJP, poof, their cases were suddenly stalled or even dropped. The allegation is that changing your party is like a get-out-of-jail-free card. So why is all of this coming to a boil in West Bengal, of all places? It's because that state is the setting for one of the absolute fiercest political fights in all of India right now. For the ruling BJP, winning Bengal is a huge deal. It's not just another state. It's a key part of their plan for national expansion. It gets them a massive prize of 42 seats in parliament, and it's a major ideological win. For Mamata Banerjee's TMC, though, this is a straight-up fight for survival, to protect their home turf and to set her up as a major national opposition leader. But here's the thing, winning Bengal has been a real headache for the BJP. They've had a tough time finding a local leader who can even come close to Mamata's popularity. She's also done a fantastic job of painting them as an outsider party that doesn't get Bengali culture. Plus, in the last big national election, their number of seats in the state actually went down, which suggests they might be losing steam there, and that just makes this whole confrontation even more intense. And this brings us right back to the big picture, because this isn't really just about one election or one state anymore. It's about the very rules of the game, how democracy is supposed to work. What started with that single raid has just exploded into a huge national conversation. And the central question everyone is asking is whether India's most important institutions, like the Enforcement Directorate, can actually operate without bias, or if they're just becoming weapons in a political war. And this quote from Mamata Banerjee, wow, it just captures the whole mood perfectly. She's framing this as a full-blown constitutional crisis, not just a political spat. It's clear both sides are digging in for a long, ugly fight, and they're both claiming the Constitution is on their side. And so that leaves us with this final, really critical question. It's actually the same question that Watergate forced America to face 50 years ago, when the very institutions that are supposed to guarantee fairness are being accused of picking sides. Who's left to hold power accountable?